Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And today, for your viewing pleasure, we have a Tier 10 domination battle on the Land of Fire map. Starring Sinks Boats for Food, the artist formerly known as Flambass, in the so new, it doesn't even have a World of Warships wiki page entry yet, the Tier 9 Dutch light cruiser, the Martin van Koehoorn, in a battle with some extremely rough for a light cruiser matchmaking. As well as not being top tier, the Van Koehoorn is tier 9. There are 5 battleships and an aircraft carrier in play on each team. Technically there are 5 battleships and 2 aircraft carriers on the enemy team because they've managed to sneak a hybrid in under the radar. They also have a Kearsarge. And then just to make matters worse, although he almost certainly doesn't actually mean anything by it, somebody on the enemy team has just recognised him and broadcast the fact in battle chat. So now everybody knows there's a famous Twitch streamer in the match which has just made Flambass public enemy number 1 for the entire enemy team. Yay! And to anybody who is already typing in the comments, oh, that doesn't mean anybody's going to go for him specifically. Well, I mean, it's true that doesn't necessarily mean that sort of thing is guaranteed to happen, but it can happen. I've seen it happen to me on multiple occasions. I remember once exactly the same thing occurred. Somebody on the enemy team recognised me, called me out in battle chat, and then the second my ship got spotted, I watched this guy divert from where he was all the way on the other end of the map and come sailing straight towards me, completely ignoring all of my teammates along the way. It does happen. The difference, of course, is that Flambass is good enough to deal with it, whereas I'm kind of not. So, what do you need to know about the ship that Flambass is sailing, the Martin van Koehoorn, Tier 9 Dutch light cruiser. It's basically a Dutch Atlanta at Tier 9. It's very similar to most of the Pan-Asian light cruisers, which are essentially just developments of the Atlanta itself as well. Although this isn't, but it has a lot of very similar characteristics, namely lots and lots and lots of destroyer caliber 5-inch guns. It's kind of like the direct opposite of the George Hoffman that we featured in a replay last week, which is a destroyer cosplaying as a light cruiser. You could argue that the Koehoorn is a light cruiser cosplaying as a destroyer, except it has a lot more firepower than most destroyers, as this extremely unfortunate Fletcher is about to find out the hard way. The Koehoorn doesn't have an awful lot in the way of utility. It doesn't have hydro or radar, for example, so Flambass doesn't know whether or not this guy has actually launched torpedoes. Oh, opportunity target there for his airstrike. The fact, however, that the Fletcher isn't returning fire would probably indicate that his torpedoes were about to load and he was holding fire in order to get them away and then escape into the smoke. And yep, sure enough, there they are. Remember, you don't actually need to have hydroacoustic search to know that there are torpedoes coming. A healthy dose of common sense will do. Unfortunately for the Fletcher, he delayed just a little bit too long with the smoke and he has gone down. And he has been joined by a fair few others as well. Wow, holy crap, the enemy team have already lost 2 destroyers and a cruiser. And all it cost Flambass's team was a Wichita. I mean, it's never good to have the team lose its only radar cruiser, but given that they've just nuked 2 of the 3 enemy destroyers, it's really not that much of a big deal. Flambass getting away with that, scot-free, not a scratch on his paintwork. I mean, the Fletcher could have shot at him while it was waiting for the torpedoes to reload, and it could have shot at him after it had launched the torpedoes, but it wouldn't have made a huge amount of difference. The Van Koehoorn doesn't get a huge amount of health. In that respect, it's a lot like the Atlanta as well. Extremely low health for a cruiser, particularly at this tier. But the Fletcher probably wouldn't have been able to do enough to make much of any difference. So, good start for the team. Me and my big mouth. They've now just lost their Charles Martel. Alright. Well, it's still a good start for the team. They are still 1 kill up. Although they've lost 2 cruisers, which means the points are actually in favour of the enemy team, especially since the enemy team, at the moment, are the only ones with 2 cap circles. Although, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do an awful lot to prevent Flambass's team from capping A, so that situation should be resolved fairly soon. Flambass initially spotted, but the smoke screen that the Fletcher dropped in its aborted attempt to get out of Dodge alive is going to come in very, very handy, American smoke, of course, lasts forever. So Flambas is going to take full advantage. Oh, they've just lost another ship. Okay, this isn't good. This isn't good at all, but they are flipping the cap at Alpha. Oh, wait a minute. They haven't just lost any ship. They've lost their carrier. How the hell do you lose a carrier this early on in the battle? Okay, things have just shifted dramatically in the favour of the enemy team. They might have lost 2/3 of their destroyers, but they've still got 2 aircraft carriers. And that, in combination with the early points lead that they had from grabbing the 2 cap circles early, even though Flambas's team have now kind of equalised the caps by flipping the cap at A, but they're now nearly 100 points ahead. And Flambas is now taking on an extremely dangerous battleship alone in a light cruiser, while also frantically trying to dodge what looks like the Johan de Witt there's airstrikes. Of course, 2 can play at that game because as a Dutch cruiser, the Martin van Koehoorn also comes with airstrikes. But what it doesn't come with is enough armour to be able to tank the incoming fire from the Marco Polo over there. Okay, they're all starting to focus him down now, but Flambas is the one who gets the kill. And it only cost him 2 fires and half of his health. And now it's the turn of the Johan de Witt, who, well, yeah, he's basically getting bum rushed. There's 4 ships on Flambas's team, including himself on this side of the map, and the Johan de Witt just ran out of friends. He is, however, blessed with an overabundance of enemies. Adriatico there dropping a smoke screen. Unfortunately, Flambas is air spotted, so he's not really able to take advantage of that, and he has another fire with his damage control on cooldown, but the Johan de Witt is definitely going down, and Flambas gets kill number 2. Okay, the fire's gone out. He's got a bit of breathing space. He's no longer spotted, there's no longer anybody shooting at him. He activates his, I think, second charge of his repair party. That's going to get him back up to about 50% health. Maybe a little less. Which isn't a lot, because, I mean, this thing only has 36,500 health at most. The situation's no longer completely desperate. They currently enjoy a 2-kill lead, and with the cap circles equalised, that's given them slightly less than a 150-point lead. Now they just have to capitalise on it without losing any more ships. Oh, he's spotted from the air. Not good. No, it's alright, it's fine. Immelman's bombers were going after the Los Andes to the south instead and just caught them at the extreme limit of their detection range. Stealth on this thing's pretty good, by the way. Like I said, it's basically a light cruiser cosplaying as a destroyer. 9.6 kilometre detection range, which would be bad for a destroyer. Oh, there's the Kearsarge. And the Immelman's hiding behind that island. But it's pretty good for a light cruiser. Similar situation with the speed. With the engine boost running, basically 40 knots, which is bloody impressive for a cruiser. It wouldn't be that bad for a destroyer, although without the engine boost running it does slow down to the much more pedestrian 35, 36-ish, which is kind of average for a destroyer at this tier. Oh, the team have just lost their Roma. That's not good. They're still ahead by 1 kill, but now they're only 50 points up. There's the Immelman, tier 10 aircraft carrier. He's running for the cover of the next island over. Oh, he's got a fire set on the Kearsarge. Now, unlike an actual aircraft carrier, that's going to burn for 60 seconds unless the Kearsarge uses his damage control. Never forget, of course, I mean, I keep going on about how this ship is basically a light cruiser cosplaying as a destroyer, and I stand by that comparison, but the one thing that a light cruiser does have, that a destroyer does... Oof, skip bombers, ouch. Yeah, the one thing that a light cruiser does have that a destroyer doesn't is a citadel, and that's not a good thing. You can citadel light cruisers, you cannot citadel destroyers. Kearsarge, Immelman. He's going to go for the Immelman. The thing is, I mean, even if he does set a fire on the Immelman, because it is an aircraft carrier, it's going to burn for 1 or 2 ticks, and then automatic damage control will kick in. It'll be immune to further fires for the next, I don't know, minute. You basically get a 20-second window of opportunity every minute and a half or so in which to actually set a fire on an aircraft carrier. Speaking of which, here come its torpedo bombers, turns into them. Beautifully timed. Took the first torpedo on his bows before it had time to arm, like fractions of a second before it had time to arm, dodged the rest. And now here comes the carrier from the other side. Do you remember how the aircraft carrier rework, amongst the many things that it was supposed to fix, was to ensure that you could no longer be cross-dropped? Yeah. Tell me how well that's working out, Wargaming. Looks like the Kearsarge is actually shooting at him instead of sending aircraft over. This could be bad. He's got a lot of fire on him though, and the Kearsarge is firing high explosive, which isn't good, because large caliber high explosive like that can do serious damage to a light cruiser, but it's not going to citadel him. Well, that's not actually true. You can citadel a light cruiser with large caliber high explosive. It's just very unlikely, but it can happen. I've done it a few times. But even if you do, it's not going to do anywhere near the same amount of damage as citadeling a light cruiser with armor piercing would have done. But what the high explosive is doing is wrecking his modules. The gun turrets on this thing do seem to be fairly fragile. He's had at least one of his turrets knocked out a couple of times now, and in that respect it's yet another similarity that this thing shares with the USS Atlanta and its derivatives. I will say though, and now the Kearsarge is switching to the low health Adriatico, of the hits that Kearsarge has scored on Flambass's ship, if they'd been armor piercing, he'd probably be dead by now, because it is entirely capable of citadeling him from the front. Here comes the Immelman again. I mean, even with a crippled engine, from that angle he should be relatively easily able to dodge those torpedoes. Of course, turning a broadside like that in order to avoid the torpedoes is setting him up as a prime target for the Kearsarge, but well, the Kearsarge is shooting at the Adriatico and he's firing high explosive anyway, so we're going to call this one an acceptable risk. He's managed to go undetected for the moment. There's another double fire on the Kearsarge. Unfortunately, the team do keep losing ships, and they've just lost another one. The Adriatico's gone down. Well, it's a brave destroyer in this game who goes after an aircraft carrier, and he just paid the price. Although the other destroyer on the team, the Orage, has managed to claim a kill back, nailing the Kearsarge while he was focusing on the Adriatico. And Flambass slowing down here because he's about to flip this cap circle. A couple of cheeky shots here, and another fire set. He really doesn't have anything to worry about here because he's not spotted for the moment, and there's the cap. So there was no danger of the cap being reset there. And now it's the Hipper's turn to enjoy a taste of this rapid-firing 5-inch high explosive. It's not bad. I mean, it's no USS Worcester. They're 5-inch guns rather than 6-inch guns, and it definitely doesn't have the Worcester's rate of fire. And oh my god, the team have just lost another battleship. There goes the Los Andes. So the kills are now even. And while Flambass's team did briefly enjoy a 1 cap circle advantage, the enemy team are now flipping Charlie. So they're about to equalise there as well. And the Immelman's coming back for more. So here come the rocket attack planes. Ouch, that hurt. And now here come the torpedo bombers. Do you remember what I was saying about how the aircraft carrier rework was supposed to eliminate the possibility of cross drops? Which is when they would send 2 squadrons at you from 90-degree angles. So no matter which way you turned, you were given broadside to one of the squadrons of torpedo bombers, making it exceptionally hard to dodge the torpedoes. Watch this. So there's the first set. Wait for it. Wait for it. Any second now. Torpedo bombers coming in from the other side. Yeah, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, aircraft carriers fixed and now working as intended. No longer possible to cross-drop my fat ass. Can't wait to see all of the tears from the aircraft carrier players in the comments. Right, anyway, it's 4v4. They do still have a lead, but there's only really 50 points in it, so there's still everything to play for. Flambass got an airstrike off there against the Lepanto. Yeah, hits, and the Confederate award. More fires. You know, I do kind of like this ship. I've actually got it myself. I can't remember how I got it. Must have gotten it from a free event container or something. I know I certainly didn't pay for it. And I've never really been a fan of the Dutch cruisers, certainly not the heavy cruisers. I mean, I've gone on record as saying that I think they're basically pretty bad ships that are balanced around having a gimmick airstrike. And I stand by that comment, but I don't feel like that's true with these light cruisers. Oh, and there's his third kill. Finished off the Lepanto with an airstrike. which is kind of ironic given what I'm about to say about this ship, because he did just finish off a tier 9 battleship with an airstrike. But he finished him off. He was on low health. It's fine. You know, a high explosive salvo from the main battery guns would have probably done the same thing. But I don't feel the same way about these light cruisers, this one in particular, that I do about the Dutch heavy cruisers. Because if you were to take the airstrike away from these light cruisers, they'd still be good ships. If you were to take the airstrike away from the heavy cruisers, they'd be exactly what they are. Kind of mediocre ships. Oh, that one scraped paint. Damn, that was close. The enemy Immelman, of course, still proving to be the bane of Flambass's existence, as he's attempting to flip the cap here at Delta. Now, he can keep line of sight blocked between himself and any surface units that are going to spot him in order to avoid being hit and reset. But pulling that off against the enemy aircraft carrier is a different matter entirely. And the danger, of course, as always with aircraft carriers, is not the direct attack that the carrier, the skip bombers, he's managed to thread the needle between them, okay. The fact that he's being spotted. Yeah, and he's getting shot at. Oh, not good. Yeah, he's getting reset here. Fortunately, again, the ship shooting at him, in this case the Hipper, was firing high explosive rather than armor piercing, because if he had been firing armor piercing, he'd probably be dead now. And there's his 4th kill. Although it's understandable that the Hipper did have 8-inch high explosive loaded, because he's facing 2 battleships, a cruiser and a destroyer. And the high explosive is most effective against 3 of those 4 targets. So he was kind of unlucky that the one thing that he had available to shoot at was the one thing that he really should have been loading armor piercing for. I think Flambass has just given up on taking this cap circle now. And honestly, I don't think the team really need it anymore. The last surviving enemy destroyer, the Yugamo, who hasn't been spotted in ages, by the way, he's just flipped the cap at Alpha. So he's nobody's problem right now, which means everybody can focus on this bastard in the Immelman. I'll say one good thing about... Well, I'll say more than one good thing about the Immelman here. First, credit where credit... Oof! Yeah, caught him with a skip bomb. Instant fire, instant damage control. But there's the Kraken unleashed. He took him out. The Immelman played a good game. We have to give him that much credit. And also, he gave Flambass an air defense expert medal. Not that it actually ended up making an awful lot of difference. I mean, he shot down 54 aircraft. I mean, it's kind of like in the same way that the US Army used to refer to the Purple Heart Medal as the Viet Cong Marksmanship Medal. Right? The Air Defense Expert Award in World of Warships is just a consolation prize to make you feel marginally better about getting focused by an aircraft carrier for the entire battle. I mean, he shot 54 aircraft down, but the Immelman was still cycling almost full squadrons on him, even right at the end of the battle. It makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. Well, it does against certain aircraft carriers that don't regenerate their aircraft as quickly. Although not many of them fall into that category. But now there's only the one thing left, and it was the Yugamo, and of course we last saw him flipping the cap at Alpha, so there was no way we were ever going to catch him before Flambass's team reached 1,000 points, and we're going to call that one a victory. So that's Flambass. Tier 10 battle, Tier 9 Dutch light cruiser, the Martin van Koehoorn. 175,000 damage done, air defense expert, Confederate, I think that's the Witherer Award, and of course the Kraken Unleashed for 5 kills. 3,500 base experience, and I think this was his first ever game in this ship. Like I said, it's not bad. Unlike, well, the Dutch heavy cruisers, you take away the gimmick, the airstrike, it's still a good ship. Hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.